Entergy provides much more than power. We support science and engineering at local schools to build a brighter path to better jobs and help prepare the next generation. Because together, we power life. Entergy.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
The generic manufacturing industry was meant to keep prices down.
But prices were soaring. Now a lawsuit.
If there's a mismatch in even one piece of the data, they won't be awarded at all.
Avoiding the pitfalls that could derail a top scholarship.
Politics is about timing and luck.
He helped lead the state through a constitutional revolution. Hi, everyone. I'm Andre Moreau.
And I'm Natasha Williams. Much more on our top stories in a moment on this week's edition of SWI. But first, a look at stories making headlines across the state. President Donald Trump showcased his America First energy policy on Tuesday during a trip to Louisiana designed to highlight his administration's efforts to increase liquefied natural gas exports and boost the country's energy infrastructure. President Trump toured the outskirts of a $10 billion terminal that will liquefy natural gas for storage and shipping. Sempra Energy announced that the Louisiana plant will begin producing liquefied natural gas and will begin shipping to global markets in the next few weeks. The administration has also promoted liquefied natural gas from the U.S. as a way for Europe to reduce its reliance on Russia for energy.
From right here in Hackberry, Louisiana, you will very soon be exporting clean American natural gas all over the globe. With the incredible grit, skill, and pride, the 7,000 workers at this facility are helping lead the American energy revolution.
And New Orleans farmers vying to become Louisiana's next agriculture commissioner. Margie Green is a Democrat who operates a flower and vegetable farm. She announced her campaign Monday to unseat the state's current agriculture commissioner, Republican Mike Strain. Green says she wants to address hardships that President Donald Trump's tariffs created for farmers. She says farmers need to diversify crops and adapt to climate change. She says too few farmers in Louisiana produce foods for the state's residents, instead focusing too heavily on exports. Green is the second candidate to take on Strain in the fall election. Natchitoches Parish farmer Charlie Greer, another Democrat, is also running for the position. Louisiana's four-year high school graduation rate has surpassed 80% for the first time, and the graduation rate for African-American students in the state has for the first time surpassed the national average, according to state education officials. Louisiana Education Department figures show an overall graduation rate in 2018 of 81.4%. That's up from 78.2% in 2017. State Education Superintendent John White says reaching the 80% threshold meant the state has finally hit a long-held goal established by lawmakers and the State Education Board in 2012. White discussed the graduation data during a news conference on the steps of the state capitol. The figures show black students' graduation rates jumped from just under 73% in 2017 to more than 78% last year. Louisiana saw record tourism numbers last year. According to Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser, the state welcomed 51.3 million visitors in 2018. He said that's an increase of over 9% from the 47.1 million visitors reported by a tourism and travel research company in April of 2017. Nungesser said visitors spent $18.8 billion, a 7% increase over 2017. He says tourism growth has enabled the state to generate more tax revenue. He says the state's new tourism brand, Feed Your Soul, has helped attract more visitors. He says the promotion has helped convey to the world that no other state can offer the incredible bounty of food, music, history, and culture that Louisiana can. Former First Lady Michelle Obama will be among the 2019 headliners for the Essence Festival on its 25th anniversary. The festival is scheduled for July 4th through 7th in New Orleans. There will be concerts inside the Superdome and free empowerment and cultural activities at the city's convention center. Festival organizers say the July 6th appearance will be Mrs. Obama's first and include a sit-down interview in the Superdome. It comes on the heels of the historic success of her book, Becoming. This year's musical lineup includes Mary J. Blige, Nas, Missy Elliott, Her, MC Lyte, and Frankie Beverly, who will be recognized for his lifetime contribution to music.
We are about 3 weeks from the end of this year's session of the legislature, and we're getting an idea what some of the outcomes will likely be. Here are the highlights this week at the Capitol. A push to ban abortions in the state as early as the 6th week of pregnancy continued to speed through the legislature. A House committee was all for backing a plan to ban abortions when a fetal heartbeat is detected. This happening the same week Alabama's governor signed into law the country's most restrictive stance on abortion. The ultimate hope of conservative states is to challenge Roe v. Wade, the 1973 Supreme Court decision that legalized abortion. House GOP lawmakers stalled a bid to give local cities the authority to set their own minimum wage. The proposal was an attempt to work around a string of defeats to boost the state's $7.25 an hour minimum. So far, a potential wage hike has been blocked at every turn. State senators backed a $3.8 billion public school formula that includes all the raises pushed by the governor. But the overwhelming support by senators is at major odds with House Republicans, who stalled the same proposal in their chamber. Louisiana State Education Board, Bessie, crafted the Senate-passed version. Debate over our use of the death penalty is moving to the House floor. The House Criminal Justice Committee voted 8-7 to send to the full House a piece of legislation to abolish capital punishment. Chances of passage in the conservative chamber are unlikely. A no from the House to allow for convicted felons to be eligible for jury duty. The state currently bans convicted felons from serving on a jury if they haven't been pardoned. A proposal by Baton Rouge Democrat Ted James received an overwhelming thumbs down. Louisiana this week joined 43 other states in a lawsuit against 20 of the country's biggest makers of generic drugs. The claim, the drug makers inflated and manipulated prices, reduced competition, and did it in a well-orchestrated conspiracy.
The drugs named in the lawsuit account for billions of dollars in sales across the country. They include the drug maker Teva. The lawsuit was filed in Connecticut. That's where the investigation began.
Now, Attorney General Jeff Landry joins us to discuss the case, which we understand when it began, the people working on it had no idea the scope and size of it. And what I've got to ask you here is, as you look at it, what surprised you the most about it?
What surprised me the most was how widespread it was and how it affected the consumers. I mean, this has really been an egregious action on behalf of these generic manufacturers, because at the end of the day, the generic manufacturing industry was meant to keep prices down, to make medicine affordable for American citizens.
Right, these are the drugs that aren't the expensive name brand drugs, supposedly. They're the ones that we depend on, and they're the ones we often use.
That's correct. So basically, the FDA set up the particular patent scheme such that drug manufacturers could go out, they would create a drug, they could brand that drug, and then they were protected for a certain period of time until the patent ran out. And then after that point in time, anyone would be able to use that particular formula and put that drug on the market. The whole concept behind that was to make sure that manufacturers were able to recoup the research and development costs, and at the end of the day, consumers got a drug under which the prices were, competition was added to the market.
So these price hikes are astronomical. How did this go on unnoticed for so long?
I think because at the end of the day, over the last couple of decades, we've seen inflationary costs in healthcare skyrocket across the healthcare industry, and it just wasn't noticed. I guess maybe we thought maybe that was correct, but when you started looking into it, we found that there was some nefarious conduct inside of the generic manufacturing industry.
Wow. And it's something we can do something about, right?
We're going to do something about.
All right, Attorney General Jeff Landry, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
The Taylor Opportunity Program for Students, or TOPS, offers thousands of Louisiana high schoolers a chance to go to college. Many could not go to college without it. As the June 1st deadline nears to turn in your final transcripts, we talk with a student who received the TOPS scholarship and administrators who say with a little organization, you too can have a TOPS success story. Oscar McClain is well on his way to a successful career as a chemical engineer.
I just came out with a 3.708 GPA. I graduated in 4 years, which is not, common in a lot of colleges.
He earned his degree from Southern University and is more than proud to be a Jaguar.
I felt comfortable at Southern University, and I got all kind of opportunities. I even had the opportunity to intern at the Los Alamos National Laboratory in Los Alamos, New Mexico, my freshman year, and they've never chose anybody to intern with them as a freshman. So that was a blessing in itself right there.
McClain says he took full advantage of every opportunity that came his way.
I started off strong because I had a 4.0 GPA my first semester in college. I had teachers that were looking out for me that would help me if I needed any kind of assistance. I wasn't at a university where I was just a number. I was at a university where I was known by my name, Oscar McClain.
McClain is proud of his many accomplishments so far, but he knows it's just the beginning and says he doesn't believe he could have even gotten this far if it wasn't for TOPS.
It would have been difficult for me to pay for college. By being difficult for me to pay for college, I may have had to have picked up a job or something like that, which would have caused me to, lack on grade.
He says because he worked hard in high school, he was rewarded even more.
I was able to get the second level of TOPS. I had a 23 on the ACT. The second level of TOPS gave me an extra $200 a semester. So that reduced some of the costs for the tuition and fees that they have us pay every semester.
McClain will be the first to admit all the documents, applications, and paperwork to get the scholarship was a bit challenging.
It definitely seems overwhelming.
But
I was able to kind of complete it through the help of the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, the actual ACT website. It was easier for me to get all of my scores out there, and so by me getting all of my scores out there, TOPS was able to do its part and make it easier for me to pay for college.
There are several things that can kind of go wrong behind the scenes.
Those overseeing the TOPS scholarship process say McClain is fortunate, but many applying for TOPS often run into roadblocks.
If there's a mismatch in even one piece of the data, they won't be awarded at all.
They say they see some of the same errors that slow down or prevent students from getting their award year after year. Ebony Holmes is the Public Information and Communications Supervisor for TOPS.
If there are errors on the FAFSA, no signatures, if they don't have a consent form on file at the school, at the high school, giving us permission to pull their transcript information, if their names are mismatched, if their name is one way on the FAFSA, another on the ACT, another on the transcript, that's going to cause an issue.
Student Financial Aid Administrator Paula Smith says as you start to look into the Taylor Opportunity Program for students, it's important to know exactly who's eligible.
High school graduates, home study student graduates, some out-of-state students may qualify based on their parents' residency. The students have to meet the core requirements, the GPA, and the minimum ACT, SAT requirements to qualify for TOPS.
Then back to the real work, making sure everything they need is in place.
We ask that the students, we have what's set up the Student Hub account, where they created an account, and on that they can see what data we already have on file for them. So if they check the Student Hub and see that we're missing some type of data for them, they can give our office a call so we can get that rectified before we start processing.
The final document needed before they can process your application comes after graduation, although many of the documents needed have been collected throughout the year.
So what happens is if a student takes the ACT, if at any point they indicate they're a junior or a senior at a Louisiana high school, or if they use our 1595 code, those scores are going to come to us. So we have those kind of waiting, and then when they start filling out their applications, whether it be the FAFSA or the TOPS online application, that information is going to merge together, and then they have at that point, a record created. And so what we're waiting on over the summer is when the schools start to submit the high school transcript information to us, and then after that is when the magic happens and we start kind of getting into processing.
Holmes says it can be a complicated process, but if you stay on top of it, you will get your just reward.
We just kind of have to make sure all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, to make sure that as soon as we start processing, they go through like clockwork.
For Oscar McClain, the college experience has been magical. He heads to New Mexico soon to start a year-long co-op at Los Alamos National Laboratory, and he'll take with him many fond college memories from Southern University, made possible by TOPS.
I was just blessed by being able to receive different scholarships and things like that, to where now it put me in a position to where I'm ready to go out for the real world. You know, I was able to save up some of the scholarship money rather than going and spending it on, you know, things that I don't need. So it put me in a position to where, you know, I can go out there and buy me an apartment if I need to. When I move out to New Mexico, I can go buy a car, you know, for transportation and things like that.
McClain says he had help from his parents in the Gear Up program through Louisiana's Office of Student Financial Aid to help complete his TOPS scholarship documents. For more information on TOPS, you can go to our website for a link to their website.
This week, famed state politician Bubba Henry gave a talk in Baton Rouge in advance of the release of his book, The Last Constitution. It's written with Jeremy Alford. It's about Louisiana's greatest generation crafting America's last constitutional convention. In a moment, my one-on-one interview with Henry. Friends and friendly faces came to the State Archives building this week, wanting to hear how it all came together. And Henry is the man they came to hear. He was, after all, the Speaker of the House when this sweeping change took place. Some of his legislative comrades from that time joined him on stage as he told how a Cajun governor, a country chairman, and bands of reformers and rebels crafted the state's new constitution. It was adopted by voters in 1974, and a year later, it was law. It was the first revision of the Constitution since 1921. 1921 Louisiana. In that year, English becomes the only language allowed to be taught in public schools. LSU's campus is in downtown Baton Rouge. The capital city is considered quaint with a population of only 22,000. By comparison, Shreveport is twice as large, while New Orleans is another world. Always has been. Cosmopolitan, decadent, different, and big. 400,000 called the Crescent City home in 1921. That was also the year the legislature adopted another state constitution, and that cornerstone of law remained until 1974. And what it meant was the executive branch, the governor, dominated everything. Huey Long wielded absolute power, and his influence remained for years after his assassination. His brother Earl Long used the ultimate good old boy approach, serving 3 non-consecutive terms. But by the late 1960s, new blood was beginning to signal a shift. A group of politicians, all about 40 years old, were speaking up, and they were being heard. E.L. Bubba Henry was one of them with the voice of reform. The group was dubbed the Young Turks after the early 20th century movement against the Ottoman Empire. By 1972, Henry was Speaker of the House. The change was real.
I think they just sort of gravitated naturally to each other. They were young people, young legislators who were the first of the reformers. There was a great reform effort in Louisiana that was disgusted with the old ways and that sort of thing.
It was just time for that to happen. It was a change from the good old boy days to a more modern form of government.
Things were ripe for change when you joined the legislature and within 4 years were Speaker of the House. So you were right there in the middle of it.
Yes, and you know, politics is about timing and luck. And John McClain was beginning his second term when I was beginning my first term in the legislature, and there had been a reapportionment, so there were a lot of new legislators coming in, and we were younger, and we had big ideas how to resolve most of the problems of the state and resolve some problems that didn't exist. And John McClain was on his second go-round, and he got interested, convinced somehow that he might get to be vice president or the nominee for the Democrats. And he didn't pay as much attention to the legislature as he probably would have, and things just began to develop for leadership in the legislature, and that new group of legislators began to try to change things, at least in the House of Representatives.
And what you guys were saying, people began to listen.
That's right.
It took hold. And so things did begin to happen. That led right into the Constitutional Convention.
Well, Jim Dennis, Judge Jim Dennis now, wanted to call a constitutional convention in the 68 to 72 term. And he filed a bill to do that, and it was ruled a non-fiscal piece of legislation. How it was non-fiscal if it was the Constitution, I never figured out, and killed the bill. And he began to try to get enough support in the House to call the Constitutional Convention, and ran into Vic Busey on the floor of the House one day, and Vic was trying to get him to vote for some taxes, and he said, I'm more interested in trying to start a constitutional convention. I can't get any help out of the administration. He said, well, let's go see the governor. We'll talk to him. And there was some interest developed that day that the governor would help call a constitutional revision commission, not a convention. But that was the first step towards the happening of the convention of '73.
But history shows it did happen.
It did happen.
You were right in the middle of it.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Now you are telling your side of it.
I think the thing that really amazed me the most is that we were able to get together and do it. But I think that had to do with the way that the legislation called for the delegates to be either elected or appointed, because there was a big issue at first. Should we let the legislature sit as the delegates? I didn't think that was a very good idea. There's something funny about people, but they'll elect you to be their representative or their senator, but they might not want you to be their delegate to a constitutional convention. The decision was made that we'd have 105 members elected, one from each of the House districts, and there would be 27 that would be appointed by the governor from specific areas like wildlife and fisheries or this category, trying to make certain that there was coverage of interest that might otherwise not be here. This was really the first time that a lot of African Americans could really run for office. Mm-hmm. And we elected, the people elected, I think it was 10 or 12 African Americans as delegates to the convention, and there were about 10 or 12 women that were either appointed or elected. And we hadn't, we didn't have any women in the legislature.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe one, I think we had one female legislator at that time. And one other thing we had that we didn't have in the legislature very much of, and that was Republicans. And I think we had about 10 or 12 Republicans. So we had a really, really good mix of people. And Andre, the thing is, we were at a point, I think in society at that time, but in particular Louisiana, where we wanted forgiveness for some of the actions we had taken in the past. Segregation was pretty much dead by that time. We had begun to welcome black people in the legislature. Women hadn't been able to participate. I think all that was important in the getting together of these people and the success that we had. But when we all came together that first time, there was a lot of suspicion and a lot of, there were people who thought that I was trying to leap from Speaker of the House to Chairman of the Convention, and that Edwin Edwards was really pushing me all the way and helping me all the way. And he didn't, to his credit, he didn't help me a bit, and I didn't ask him for but one thing, but he told me no on that. And we began to work with one another, and we had so many good appointees.
And working together worked out.
That's exactly right, because that's what politics is about, I think.
As you look back, what would be the most proud of your moments?
The first thing that I'm proud of was that working with my colleagues from 1972 to 1976, we became a House of Representatives, and we represented the people of the state. And we agreed with the governor most of the time, but if we didn't agree with the governor, we had reason for not doing that. And I think we utilized the membership that we had in the House of Representatives better than it ever had been done before, and we really had a legitimate House of Representatives. I'll always be proud of that, because the people that we had and the way they worked together. And the passing of the Constitutional Convention was great. it didn't pass by that many votes, and it didn't pass in my district at all. But the fact that we could get together and stay together and learn to be friends and continue to be friends as long as we've lived and create this document is very meaningful to me.
A big thank you to Bubba Henry for his time and his comments. He's now 83 and he practices law in Baton Rouge.
On Wednesday, the Louisiana Office of Community Development issued a blueprint, the first of its kind in the U.S., for managing the population shift of coastal residents forced to move because of climate change.
Well, this month, Louisiana Public Square brings together the author of the report, along with coastal restoration advocates, stakeholders, and researchers. We'll explore how the state is protecting lives as it responds to coastal land sinking and sea level rising.
What we can do is allow river sediments to replenish these wetlands again. So that's why these river diversions that are planned are going to be absolutely crucial. Without that, it's just not going to happen. But even with that, it's only going to happen in certain areas. We're not going to rebuild large parts of the coast. That's just not going to happen. But the most important thing is that we have to address climate change, because if we don't do that, then even the best river diversions on the planet are not gonna bail us out.
Sinking Louisiana will air Wednesday, May 22nd at 7 p.m. on LPB and in New Orleans on WLAE. The program is made possible in part through funding from WNET and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. There's info online at lpb.org/public square.
And that's our show for this week, and we end the week with this reminder. By downloading our brand new app, you can watch this and other LPB and PBS programs whenever you want.
It's free. Just go to your app store and download this upgraded version featuring news and public affairs documentaries, how-tos, and many more programs. And please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
For all of us at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Andre Moreau.
And I'm Natasha Williams.
Thanks for watching. Until next time, that's the state we're in.
Support comes from
Entergy provides much more than power. We support science and engineering at local schools to build a brighter path to better jobs and help prepare the next generation. Because together, we power life. Entergy.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.